Ben, what do you call a JavaScript Jedi?
Don't know.
A left Padawan.
So we're across the canal from the Pusher offices in a cafe. I'm here, I'm Ben, and this is Jack.
Hey.
Hey, so how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, super good. Super good.
Fantastic. So I think this week we've been thinking about the left pad debacle, or left pad gate, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
So for the unaware, this is the module left pad on NPM, 11 lines of JavaScript that was depended on by Babel and React and loads of other stuff. Whose author unpublished it from NPM, and then basically half the internet broke as far as we can tell, and for a good few hours nothing worked. No NPM installs that depend on Babel, which is nearly every JavaScript project out there, and none of them worked. They all broke, to the point where NPM eventually unpublished the module, putting it back online and fixing development as we know it. Which I think really has just got us thinking about NPM and dependencies generally in JavaScript land.
So, yeah, it's a really interesting thing, right? Like, so I guess over the last few years, our front end dependencies have become dependent on NPM to such a great degree, right?
Yeah.
And like, I kind of figure you're the kind of guy who likes lots of little mini dependencies all over the place, right? Yeah.
How did you guess?
Just I don't know, just in your eyes or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Hey, do you ever feel nervous about that? Or?
Yeah, it's interesting because basically the whole approach of loads of little dependencies works really well until it breaks, and then everyone starts thinking about if it does actually work well or not. And I myself are guilty of finding a package online that does what I need, however small that piece of function might be, and just kind of chucking it into my own app. Really, the issue then becomes who do you trust to author these modules, and who can you depend on, if you pardon the dreadful pun. That wasn't even on purpose. It just comes naturally.
Nice.
It just comes naturally. And I think the question here is should projects that are large, like Babel, like React, like all the other ones that broke, be depending willy-nilly on modules without vetting them to some degree? This module, the left pad module, was 11 lines of JavaScript, has something like 10 stars on GitHub. I wouldn't describe it as a prolific module, but then, people are saying, well, they should have implemented that themselves, which is fine, but then where do you draw the line on implementing stuff yourself?
I mean, so, like, is there any way that you can check over every dependency that you have? I mean, I get this thing, like, as soon as I'm starting a site, and I'm like, I want to take my Sass and make it into CSS, I'll put in gulp, I'll put in, like, suddenly I've got, like, 150 different sub-dependencies.
Exactly. And is a left pad module on its own something that we should be encouraging, that kind of size of package? It's a bit of functionality that would be pretty straightforward for you to implement yourself. Like any developer would be able to, I'd imagine. So it's interesting, and I think we're at the stage where front-end development, we're not really used to. It's getting more complicated all the time. Like a few years ago, we didn't have NPM, really. We didn't have client-side JavaScript applications. Our JavaScript was as much as a little jQuery carousel or accordion. I pine for the good old days, but we have all these dependencies. Front-end development is way more complicated now, by necessity. Is the real issue here nothing to do with dependencies at all, but more the fact that NPM lets you unpublish packages. So if I, the author, have published something like LeftPad, and then for whatever reason I decide to take it down, should I be allowed to do that just at any point? Doesn't that break the whole point of NPM is that we can freely depend without concern and worry.
Right, okay, so on one hand, it's a massive problem because that's going to have that effect that we had like yesterday or whatever on that.
Yeah.
But in another point, it's like you're actually using that dependency and yet you're trusting someone else to serve it to you or something like that. Like you've not paid any money to NPM, right?
No.
So I think there's part of it is like a responsibility to yourself to how you kind of go about development to have that. Like, so stuff like having a kind of like storing your dependencies locally, or like kind of committing them in and having them so that you have access to them as independently, I think is a kind of solution. I don't think it falls entirely on NPM's back.
No. Some companies got around this by having their own private NPM. So as developers in the free world, are we relying too much on NPM? Like, do we take far too much for granted? Should we be more grateful for our NPM overlords?
Right. I actually I dug the way that Bower works, right? Like you don't like Bower, do you?
You dug the way that Bower works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, well,
okay. Convince me.
you could use Bower to kind of keep things in check, but ultimately you'd be changing stuff in your own code base.
Yeah.
Rather than there's been a kind of switch with that kind of to a more kind of traditional dependency system where you don't have that control anymore.
Yeah. Where we don't check no modules in, whereas people did check Bower.
But more that Bower, it's more that Bower was fitted around that way of working.
Okay.
Whereas we've kind of transitioned away from that.
Yeah.
At some point.
So the file system isn't the source of truth.
Exactly.
Now.
Exactly. And I'd kind of like it if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fair.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So the point here is if we did check node modules in, then this wouldn't have been such a big deal. It would have been annoying because a fresh NPM install wouldn't have worked. But you would have still had everything locally. You know, the biggest problem was deploys and CI servers and stuff were breaking because most of them rely on an NPM install first.
Yep.
I think it's also important to note out that this was a big problem. It didn't take any websites down.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I think I'm less concerned about depending on things like this. I don't think that's a massive deal. I think if you'd say, okay, left pad as a function is too small to depend on, we'll write it ourselves, you have to draw a line at some point. And this problem, it happened to be, in this case, the module was left pad, which was 11 lines long. But it could have been a module that was 200 lines long or 500 lines or did loads more that you would never think, okay, I'm going to spend a day writing this myself. I think, you know, we're still learning how best to do this stuff on the client side. NPM will improve as a result of this. I expect that they'll get stricter on how and when you can unpublish. I think that's ultimately caused this issue. I think once your module is out in the wild after a particular time period and is depended on, arguably you shouldn't be able to get rid. I think unpublishing is there if you publish something with a security flaw or a massive problem and you can quickly get rid of it again. But a long term, I don't think it's a solution. I think that breaks the whole ecosystem if we allow people to do that. And longer term, with tools like Rollup, Webpack 2, and its tree shaking and dead code elimination, all that, this won't be as big a problem. So that's what Ben and I think, and we'd love to hear your opinions. Links to the Twitter accounts are down below. Feel free to get in touch.